Welcome to FinScale, a podcast created by Solène Niederkorn, shedding light on innovation in finance, banking, and insurance.
Finance Minister shares the financial magic of Luxembourg. Yuriko Backes, Minister of Finance in Luxembourg.
But I think, and that's what's most important, it's not too late. The EU has learned the right lessons also from the pandemic. The focus of the past few years has been on investments, notably green and the digital transition. So we also need to diversify and increase the number of sources of funding away from the traditional over-reliance on the banking financing. And the Capital Markets Union has a lot of potential and indeed includes the promotion of digital financial services and also open finance as part of its priority. So in general, I want to say that in the EU, we need to continue work in that direction.
In this captivating episode featuring the Minister of Finance, we gain fascinating insights into the Luxembourg FinTech ecosystem and its role in the competitive landscape of European finance. We explore the government's initiatives and policies that support innovation and collaboration, which make Luxembourg an attractive destination for FinTech startups and investors. We delve into the present state of Luxembourg's FinTech ecosystem and its vibrant environment for innovation. Yuriko shares how the government fosters growth by creating a favorable regulatory framework and encouraging partnerships between traditional financial institutions and FinTech startups. We explore the specific initiatives and policies implemented over the past decade aimed at supporting FinTech startups and driving digitalization efforts in the financial sector. We also gain insights into the delicate balance of promoting innovation while ensuring the stability and security of the financial system. However, the fintech industry in Europe and Luxembourg faces evident challenges such as intricate regulation and talent acquisition. Yuriko reveals the government's strategic plans to overcome these obstacles, emphasizing collaboration and investments in digital infrastructure, on education, funding, or research. I couldn't have the Minister of Finance as a guest on my podcast and not mention Europe. Gain a deeper understanding of Europe's position within the worldwide fintech landscape and the steps taken to maintain and enhance its competitiveness. Enjoy the show! Hello everyone. Good afternoon, Minister Backes.
Good afternoon.
I'm really happy that you accepted my invitation on FinScale, and having the pleasure to interview a Minister of Finance is a great honor for me. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, so we could have talked about many different subjects with you, but I really wanted to concentrate on FinTech. So how would you describe the current state of the FinTech ecosystem in Luxembourg?
Well, thank you. I think it's an excellent topic that you have chosen, and thank you again for the invitation. I would like to say that the Luxembourg fintech ecosystem has shown really a remarkable growth and has a lot of potential. Luxembourg has really a unique ecosystem profile that distinguishes it from larger counterparts. Today, we have more than 220 fintech firms in Luxembourg, around 75 of which are hosted in the Loft. In total, we have about 520 startups, so half of those are fintechs. And this number, normalized by the residential population, really does parallel those of more mature ecosystems in larger cities. So I can talk about some of Luxembourg's fintech ecosystem strengths, if you want.
Yes, of course.
Because we do have a higher than average percentage of founders for both business and with both business and technical backgrounds. Luxembourg startups demonstrate strong international connections, which is really important, particularly with global tech hubs like London, Berlin, Silicon Valley. And also a really considerable proportion of their revenue stems from international clients. I think here in Luxembourg, we also exhibit the potential for sector specialization in areas such as fintech, blockchain, AI, big data, advanced manufacturing, and robotics, but also regtech or funtech. I would like to say something that I discovered recently. Luxembourg has been ranked the 4th best fintech startup ecosystem in Europe.
Really?
This is by a McKinsey study, so you can look it up. So while the country ranked fourth overall, it led the ranking in terms of the number of fintechs founded per capita, and came second in deals per capita. So these findings really reaffirm Luxembourg's position as a key player in the European fintech landscape.
It's a very positive state.
I think so. I think, of course, there's also still a lot of potential to further develop, but I think one of the specificities of the Luxembourg fintech system is really its strong focus on B2B. Given the presence of a large international financial center, many fintech firms in Luxembourg provide services and products to the financial industry. This is normal, that attracts them. But also with a big fund industry worth more than 5 trillion euros, there is also a lot of potential for firms to develop solutions to support the asset servicing industry in Luxembourg, for example. So I think in general, to wrap up your question, you have two types of fintech firms in Luxembourg. On the one hand, firms that leverage really the local financial sector ecosystem. They may be homegrown or they may be coming from abroad. That's the first type. Secondly, firms that would come to Luxembourg to really serve the rest of the EU. And a good example here, I think, is the payment sector. Luxembourg is the EU home to some of the world's leading payment and e-commerce firms. So I think those are the two, broadly speaking, really the two types of fintech firms that we find in Luxembourg today and that we hope will be developing their activities in the future.
Of course, of course. Yuriko, I have a very specific question because I'm following this ecosystem for now a few years, and I'm always interested by all the initiatives taken by the country to promote and support the finance, and more particularly the fintech industry. Could you share a little bit the steps that the country has taken those last years?
Sure. I think more generally, perhaps to say that the European fintech techs continue to really gain in strength and relevance for customers and the economy. More generally, perhaps before getting more to Luxembourg specific, I want to say that in each of the 7 largest European economies measured by GDP, at least one fintech ranks among the top 5 banking institutions. So we view the current state of innovation and fintech in Europe really as an absolute opportunity for growth and collaboration. So it's a reality that the EU, and I think one must say this more broadly, has fallen behind the US and also Asia or parts of Asia since the global financial crisis. And there has been really an investment gap, and overall European firms have spent less on innovation than their US or, for example, Chinese counterparts, for instance. But I think, and that's what's most important, it's not too late. The EU has learned the right lessons from also from the pandemic. The focus of the past few years has been on investments, notably green and the digital transition. So we also need to diversify and increase the number of sources of funding away from the traditional over-reliance on the banking financing. And the Capital Markets Union has a lot of potential and indeed includes the promotion of digital financial services and also open finance as part of its priority. So in general, I want to say that in the EU, we need to continue work in that direction. Now coming to Luxembourg, the Ministry of Finance wants to really create a conducive environment for fintech innovation. It's really important. And it strives to support the digital transformation of our financial center. And here, of course, fintech is a very important lever. If you allow me, perhaps I will, what I see as the 5 measures that really are very important and that Luxembourg has taken to promote and support finance and the fintech industries. Firstly, that's really the creation of a favorable regulatory environment. I want to say that Luxembourg has really been constantly working on towards creating a very friendly and supportive regulatory environment for fintech startups. One example is the recent changes to our capital markets legislation to specifically allow the use of blockchain and also DLT for the transfer and issuance of securities, as well as in the context of financial collateral. Another example is our regulator, the Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier, CSSF, provides really clear guidelines for fintech companies, and there are several initiatives to make licensing processes also easier for fintech firms. So it has also put in place a dedicated innovation hub for this. I think it's very important. The second measure I'd want to briefly discuss is establishing a fintech incubators and accelerators. Institutions such as the Loft really here provide support to fintech startups through mentorship, through guidance, also for networking opportunities, which is always important also in the financial sector. And importantly, it also helps to connect the traditional financial sector with fintech innovation. A third point that is very important, and we discuss it a lot, is attracting talent. That really remains an absolute priority.
Clearly.
Luxembourg's multilingual population, combined also with its geographic location, with also its high quality of life, really does make it attractive to foreign talent and to investors. But I also know there's still a lot that can be done to make our country more attractive. I think this is an issue that is not only an issue in Luxembourg, but talent attraction, talent retention is really an issue that is also my homologues in other countries are dealing with. So what we really do want is to create a supportive environment and make it as easy as possible to launch business in Luxembourg. For me, there is still a lot that can still be done there as well. Fourthly, investing in education and research, important for everything, also in this sector. And Luxembourg is investing in education and research also related to fintech, to foster innovation, also to foster homegrown talent. For instance, the University of Luxembourg now offers courses and research opportunities in finance and technology. Perhaps I want to just underline that recently I inaugurated the National Center for Excellence in FinTech. It's called the NICER. NCER. NICER sounds nice, right?
Yeah. It's true.
So here really by focusing on cutting-edge interdisciplinary research, the NCER for FinTech will play a key role in helping to develop new talent in Luxembourg, which is very important. Also to support the competitiveness of our financial center and strengthen our fintech ecosystem to drive the digital transformation of the Luxembourg financial sector forward. I promised you 5 points, so
I was waiting for the fifth one.
I will mention a last one. I can give you 10 more, but maybe we concentrate on these 5. So the fourth measure I'd just like to mention is really support for scaling. Luxembourg provides support for startups looking to scale, including providing access to local and international investors. And here we have just recently launched the Luxembourg Future Fund number 2.
Ah, really?
So under LFF, which is not Luxembourg for Finance, but which is Luxembourg Future Fund 2. The European Investment Fund and the SNCE cooperate in order to stimulate the diversification and also sustainable development of the Luxembourgish economy by making available financial resources, for example, to venture capital and also to private equity funds. And to early stage innovation businesses. So these are all steps that we have taken and that we can, of course, still further develop to make this with the aim to maintain and really to enhance Luxembourg's position as a leading European fintech hub.
Thank you very much. You went a lot into the details. I was not expecting so much details. Thank you very much for that. There are many challenges in the fintech area. We know, some fintech companies run sometimes out of cash. Some are facing regulatory major challenges, and there are many other challenges that we could mention. So, how do you plan to address them? I mean, some of them.
Thank you. So I think the government really does act as an enabler, almost as a facilitator or promoter to support the growth of the fintech industry in Luxembourg. The government can help create an environment that is really conducive to fintech innovation and to growth, which is really important. So one of our priorities is and remains the development and also the further diversification of the financial center. The financial sector accounts for around a third of GDP, and each job created in the financial sector creates 1.1 jobs in the rest of the economy. So the growth of the financial sector or the financial center overall is also a growth driver in fintech. As the financial sector will need to continue to innovate as well and also rely on new technologies to become more efficient and also to reduce costs. And at the same time, fintech is an enabler for growth. But again, I see here a couple of areas where we can still work on. One is, of course, policy and regulation. Another is funding and investment support. Also, infrastructure development. For example, the government plays really a crucial role in developing the infrastructure that enables the fintech ecosystem to thrive. This involves both physical infrastructure, like supporting the creation of a sovereign cloud, and virtual infrastructure, like robust and secure digital framework for fintech operations. We already discussed, or I already mentioned, research and development. Also, collaboration and mutualization, I think, is really important here. The government can facilitate collaboration and resource sharing among fintech companies. For instance, it has been supporting the Luxembourg House of Financial Technology that I mentioned earlier, the LOFT in setting up mutualization initiatives. And this will ultimately make Luxembourg more attractive to financial institutions. And again, skill development and education is so important. A lot has been done, but I think there we can always do more. We already discussed talent a little bit, but talent attraction, talent retention is absolutely important. In this year's budget, I have foreseen that some of the regimes that are already in place are improved. For example, the impatriate tax regime, as well as the profit participation scheme, have been improved. But also here, I think when the budgetary means are there, also these schemes can be improved. But this is part of really trying to make us more attractive in the financial sector, which will have a positive spillover for the fintech sector as well.
Thank you very much. And you know that the financial system is wide. You have a lot of traditional players, banks and management companies, etc. So traditional financial institutions, and some of them work hand in hand with startups, some not yet. How important is it, in your opinion, this collaboration between TradFi players and fintech startups in driving innovation and growth in the sector?
So I think this is extremely important because still a few years ago the focus was really on disruption. But as the fintech sector has matured, we are seeing more and more partnerships between traditional finance sector and young innovative companies. So I think this is a very healthy development. Fintech firms, but also the rapid switch to remote working and also digital tools, especially as we have seen since the pandemic, they have really spurred traditional banks also asset managers and insurers to accelerate their digital transformation. So they cannot develop every solution internally, but need perhaps nimbler development processes, and part of the solution is really to partner up with fintech companies. On the other side, fintech firms, which we have also seen as part a lot of the growth of what was facilitated by the low interest rate environment. It allowed access to cheap funding to finance fast growth and access to clients that were looking for yield and alternatives to fixed income and bank deposits. And today the environment is much more challenging for some fintech firms, notably in the lending space or also in the crypto space. So I believe that there's also one area with huge untapped potential and where we must increasingly connect also with traditional finance and technological innovation is in the green fintech. So a shift towards climate neutrality and also ESG investments is fundamentally also a data problem. It's also about accessing sustainability data and managing that data to meet, for example, the disclosure or reporting requirements. So in Europe, we are putting the necessary standards and the necessary definitions in place within the regulatory framework. And the industry is faced really with vast data gaps, lack of access to real-time access, as well as huge volumes actually of inconsistent data. So leveraging the technology to support the greening of the financial sector is therefore really a priority. And AI, machine learning, DLT can all be tools to address this data problem. But there are also entirely new business models or green financial products that become possible, for example, by leveraging tokenization. So I see a lot of potential for collaboration here, which will be really win-win.
This is a topic that I have been diving into with Nicolas Maquel. I had invited him on my podcast, and there was, some element that you mentioned that we also highlighted, and particularly the impact finance, the sustainable finance, which is not only in the fintech area, but broadly speaking, there are a lot of initiatives popping up everywhere in the industry in Luxembourg, for instance, at the Luxembourg Stock Exchange. But it's one example among many others. So you mentioned already a lot of technology appearing recently, such as AI, blockchain, etc. So how do you envision the fintech ecosystem in Luxembourg evolving in the 5 to 10 years?
Excellent question. We will be discussing this for a very long time. No, I think Luxembourg's fintech ecosystem is really likely to undergo considerable change and growth in the next 5 to 10 years that you mentioned. And this will be driven really by a large variety of factors, including the country's really ongoing commitment to fostering innovation, which is really crucial. The changes in the global and also the regional fintech trends, and also continued investment in the sector. Again, one key area where we will see major evolution is in the sustainable finance sector. The financial industry, including fintech, is increasingly focusing on sustainability, environmental, social, and governance, the ESG criteria. And I really think that Luxembourg is well positioned to become a leader in green finance technology, also due to its existing strengths in fund management and its commitment to sustainable and responsible investment. So we can expect to see new fintech companies developing solutions that help investors and financial institutions integrate these ESG criteria into their decision-making processes and manage and report on their sustainable investments. I think one very important part of sustainable finance is also women in finance and women in fintech. And also there, I think there is still so much to be done. I see you smiling and nodding, so I think this is something we absolutely agree on. But of course, this starts very early. Women we have to encourage them to study more in the STEM areas. We need to really encourage and support women. There is just so much talent there. it is there. We discussed before talent, but for me, that's one area that is still largely untapped, and it's everywhere around us. It's women and their talent.
Thank you for adding this.
No, it's extremely important for me, because there you also have the direct link. I mean, there are statistics, for example, female-led companies. I suppose it's the same thing for startups. There is a direct link with also their lower carbon footprint as compared to man-led companies. So you see a direct link, and I think this is an extremely important area to develop and really to support. I can talk about women in finance and finance for women for hours, but that was not your question.
So. No, but I invite you for a second episode if you want.
I would love that. Thank you so much. What I want to say furthermore is that Luxembourg's ambition to become a FinTech investment hub in Europe will likely lead also to a growing number of venture capital firms setting up operations in the country. Mm-hmm. And this in turn will encourage more FinTech startups to base themselves in Luxembourg, knowing that they have easier access to the capital that they need to grow and also to scale their operations. Mm-hmm. So the presence of these firms will create a virtuous cycle, if we want to call it that, attracting more talent and more companies and driving further the innovation in the sector.
And I had interviewed some of them. I had Mangrove Capital, Orbital Ventures, Middlegame Ventures, who are VCs implemented in Luxembourg and investing in companies in Luxembourg, but also in Europe, and who can testify. There is a great interest to build its VC firm also in Luxembourg.
Absolutely. So another key trend is also likely to be increased collaboration, both within Luxembourg and also across borders. Financial institutions, technology companies, and also regulators will need to work closely together really to navigate the complexities of the rapidly evolving digital landscape. And it is really very, very complex, and everything goes very fast. So in addition, FinTech firms in Luxembourg, I think, will increasingly partner up with companies in other European countries to leverage the unique strengths of the different markets and to create the solutions that can be scaled across the EU. Finally, perhaps also artificial intelligence. I think that's also part of the current and future developments, and also machine learning. They will all become more sophisticated, and they will be integrated even more also in the FinTech solutions, improving predictive analytics, for example, risk assessment, customer service, among other things. Finally, perhaps just a point on regulation, because in the field of regulation, we can also expect Luxembourg to continue to lead the way in developing clear, supportive, regulatory frameworks for new technologies. Also, that is extremely important. I'm aware that the EU can have a tendency to over-regulate. We don't want that, but regulation is also good. I have heard some people say that the US invents things, the Chinese produce or build things, and the EU regulates. Well, I think it's maybe partly a cliche, but we have seen in the past that the EU can also lead the way through regulation, and with regulation also creating new opportunities and encouraging competition. So there's also potential for that without over-regulating.
Thank you for this message, optimistic message. You were talking about VCs. What message would you like to convey to potential investors and FinTech startups considering Luxembourg as a base for their operations? You know, I have some clients that are operating in other countries that are using for some of their operations Luxembourg as a hub to create investment vehicles, etc. So not necessarily implementing their startups in Luxembourg, but using Luxembourg as a great tool to implement some investment vehicles.
So I think Luxembourg is really leveraging its advantageous geographic location at the heart of Europe. We like to say that we're in the heart of the EU. Also leveraging its multilingual and multicultural workforce really to attract fintech companies from around the world. I'm also convinced that Luxembourg is the ideal destination for any fintech firm to expand their operations in Europe. We have a comprehensive and supportive ecosystem. We have discussed it, that facilitates every step of the journey, really from the initial setup to incubation to acceleration and funding. And Luxembourg provides really a fertile ground for fintech innovation and growth. So it is positioning itself as an international hub for fintech, especially for companies looking to operate across the EU, as you have mentioned, given then also the harmonized regulatory framework and also the passporting rights. And as the largest also fund hub in the EU, that I mentioned before, and also as EU leader in areas ranging from private banking to corporate banking to also life insurance and post-trade, listing and post-trade services. Luxembourg not only provides access to a potentially large client base for fintech firms, but also easier access to decision makers in the sector than perhaps other markets will allow for. Yes, well, I think it does have its advantages. The short ways, of course, always staying well regulated and serious, because that goes without saying. So fintech is actually one of the few areas where Luxembourg is itself has a market of significant size. Luxembourg has also been proactive in embracing blockchain and digital assets. In recent years, the government has been drafting legal frameworks for DLT, making it one of the first countries in Europe to have a regulatory environment for its nascent technologies. And this has attracted many blockchain startups to set up their operations in Luxembourg. But also large banking institutions have chosen Luxembourg for their digital asset platforms. Luxembourg is also known for its robust and forward-looking regulation. We discussed a bit earlier the regulator, the CSSF, offers a supportive and also a navigable regulatory environment, making it easier for fintech firms to comply with regulations while innovating. I think that's very important and for the sector. And of course, and we have mentioned that before as well, but I want to say it again because you asked me as a message to potential investors. The government is investing heavily in education and research initiatives to build a robust talent pipeline. So again, we need to have universities on board. Research centers in Luxembourg are developing specialized courses and conducting cutting-edge research in fintech. This is really important to nurture the next generation of fintech innovators. And finally, let's not forget the high quality of life in Luxembourg. Luxembourg is a highly cosmopolitan place, as you know, and you are a testimony to it. We thrive on diversity. And also that, I think, is a very important ingredient for success in the dynamic and evolving fintech landscape. But if we want to attract people who invest in Luxembourg, also in this area, people will want to create families or they come with their families. So we also need to provide for high quality education, which we do. And I think over the past years, we have seen incredible development in this area. We have international schools, free international schools where kids can do their international baccalaureate, for example. but besides other private, public, and European schools. But I think also this dimension is extremely important when people are considering to move or invest in another country.
It's the only country I know where you have in one same classroom, for my kids that's the case, more nationalities than kids.
Indeed, because
I counted.
Kids have a number of nationalities, but I think that makes this place so multinational, cosmopolitan, and creates to the great diversity and also a great diversity of thinking, which is so important. Yeah.
Yuriko, prior to serving as a Minister of Finance, you held the position of representative of the European Commission in Luxembourg. Is it correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I believe...
It was not the immediate job before I joined government, but the one before.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. But I believe that this experience has provided you with a clear vision of the complexities within the competitive landscape among the different member states as they strive to become the primary fintech hub for Europe. But what seems even more significant, in my opinion, is identify the key factors that make Europe an attractive destination for fintech startups and investors, and especially when you compare this, as you did, to the US and Asia. So, in your opinion, what are the key factors that make Europe an attractive location for fintech startups and investors, and particularly in comparison with, again, US and Asia?
Yes, I think, first of all, of course, the fact that we have a large and unified market. So with a population of over 500 million people and a GDP of more than 15 trillion euros, the EU represents one of the largest economic zones in the world. And of course, this offers tremendous opportunities for fintech startups to scale their operations and also to reach a substantial and diverse customer base. Secondly, I would say passporting rights. Europe's regulatory environment allows fintech firms to apply for a single license in one member state, which can then be passported across the entire European economic area. Thirdly, I would say also regulatory innovation. European regulators have been proactive in embracing fintechs and fostering innovation, and there are a number of examples perhaps without going into details, but the Digital Markets Act, for example, or the Second Payments Services Directive are some of the examples. I would also say a strong infrastructure. Europe boasts a robust digital infrastructure with high internet penetration rates, also widespread use of smartphones and a highly developed banking system. So this provides really a strong foundation for fintech companies to build upon. I would also say the investment climate. Europe has a growing venture capital scene with a particular interest in fintech. European fintech firms attracted 6.3 billion in venture capital investments in 2020, according to Innovate Finance. And also the European Investment Fund, for example, is a super example. I would also say, despite the fact that we constantly discuss talent, the problem of talent, we do have a talent pool. Europe has a very highly educated workforce and very strong universities, providing a substantial talent pool also for fintech startups to draw upon. And let's not forget that also we have a very well-educated women in Europe. Again, talent. I must underline it again, but perhaps just also coming back to the EIF, because the EIF is really also a fantastic tool, both as the largest European venture capital investor, as well as for providing enhanced access to funding through financial instruments. So I think that's another fantastic tool that we can use in Europe.
Thank you, Yuriko. Can I ask you, as a last question, a book recommendation? That's always my last question.
Not for fintech.
No.
No, I don't like to advertise books. I read many books, but I don't like to, as minister, recommend books. So we can do that privately.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you all for listening and sharing this moment with us. Don't hesitate to contact me on Twitter or LinkedIn to share your comments and reactions. You can also rate this episode on your favorite podcast platform. See you soon.